Welcome to tomorrow's Tech Today. This podcast episode is sponsored by Intel. And to find out more about Intel, please click on the link in the description to learn more. So, Wei, welcome to the show. It's so lovely to be speaking to you again.
Hi, Sally. Glad to be back. We had a chat about 6 months ago, and I really enjoyed it. I'm glad to be back here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure. And I thought maybe the first thing we could talk about today, as you were saying, we last spoke at the innovation event. I'd love to hear the latest developments really about what your team, kind of global, really engineering magicians, I would describe it. I love that metaphor. I think it really is what you really are all about. So what have you been up to the most? What are the key developments over the last few months?
Yeah, it's great. So it's been quite a few months, and in AI time, a few months are very, very long. So because things are moving very quickly. Actually, one thing I want to mention here is since we talked, I actually went to London a few weeks ago. I got a chance to give a keynote at the AI Summit over there. I really enjoyed it. And finally, I give a talk in the AI Summit for London 2 years ago, but that was virtual. I couldn't do it because of pandemic. And this time, finally, got around to go there. Actually, I want to tell you one thing here, because when I was in London, I did some machine learning myself. I spent a few days there, and I tried to train my neural networks here and to see if I can predict London weather over there. And what I find out was London weather was very similar to Silicon Valley weather, which I live in Silicon Valley, and it was sunny, it was warm, and it was sometimes it was a little bit hot. So tell me if my machine learning model is working or not.
I think the variability of the data there was very accurate, in all honesty. One of our expressions in the UK is about 4 seasons in one day. So I think you're an honorary Brit already by that observation. I think your data is absolutely spot on there. It really is. And it's accelerating around that as well, I would say as well. So great observation. I love that.
Yeah. So that was a interesting part of it. Now see, I did more than London trip, obviously, and we as a company we made quite a bit of progress from all kinds of very different areas here. And last time when we talked about Intel, we want to go for AI everywhere. We talked about whether Intel is doing both hardware and software. We talk about the 4 pillars. We talk about the scalability, performance, productivity, and innovation. So all these are important things we discussed, and we give example of software giving 10x performance, 100x performance, right? So since then we made more progress. I would say along the 3 vectors. So one is on the hardware side, we continue to make progress. We made a few announcements, and then on the software side, which my focus on my team is on the software side, and we actually made a lot of progress, and we made some announcement also in the past couple of months, as well as part of the London AI Summit. And the other thing, in terms of use cases, I know you really care about AI for good, technology for good for use cases. So we are making some progress over there also in terms of the people we collaborate with. I want to make sure the technology we are developing are going to be helping our humanity here.
I love that. And I very much shared values around that. Funnily enough, I was keynoting at the London Stock Exchange, and I brought in a few of the examples that you've been doing around that very area as well. So fantastic you mentioned that. I might come back to that later on as well, if I may, because again, I love to share the message around that and the true actions that you're taking around it, which is so important. And I also noticed as well with some of the areas you were covering there, so software, hardware, but also the power of partnership. Really excited to see what you're doing around collaboration. So I'd love to come back to that a little bit later. We Google, Accenture, and Hugging Face as well. So I'd love to drill into that a little bit as well. But one thing I'd love to kind of start off with next is you were drawing there about going beyond, more than a hardware company, and you were talking there about software. So could you explore more maybe about that SoftwareFirst Initiative? I think it's a really exciting step forward.
Yeah. So historically, we've been hardware company, and we're doing a lot on the hardware side. So we have made quite significant progress in terms of as I think I mentioned to you the other day, in terms of portfolio. Our hardware side, we have the CPU, we have the GPU, and we have the special hardware accelerator for AI, right? And in all three cases, we have been adding special accelerations to this, so we can actually, run these AI applications much faster. And over there, we had a recent announcement in various different forums. We had Intel had a analyst day recently, had other forums recently. We announced for example, with CPU, Xeon CPU with the AMX acceleration inside, that can be actually faster than a alternative GPU designed for deep learning inference, right? So we showed 1.5x better, and then the SPR with AMX 1.5x better than NVIDIA's A30, for example, right? And we also demonstrated GPU can be better, is better as well. The PBC GPU with 1.7x better on inference and 2.1 x better on the 1.7x better on the training side, 2.1x better on the inference side. And then most recently, our special accelerator Habana, within there's a consortium for machine learning called MLPerf, and over there everyone is publishing data, benchmarking data over there. Habana demonstrate they have a better performance, with the latest hardware Gaudi 2 to be better than A100 as well. So on the hardware, is making a lot of progress. Now back to the software side. It is very exciting to be a software person inside Intel, because there are a couple of things changing over there. One is actually we had a new CTO, actually happened to be my boss, and CTO Greg Lavender. So he is the overall Intel CTO. He reports to the CEO directly, but he is actually a software person. He's a software technical person. So imagine a software technical person as a CTO for overall Intel, right? That's actually a change for Intel here. And then the other, we are other example I want to give you is everybody recognize software is going to be the key here. So I talk about the variety of hardware we're doing here: CPU, GPU, accelerator, and even in the industry, there's a variety of accelerators going on. People are developing all kinds of hardware over there. Now, the key is going to be software, actually, right? Because if you have to develop an entire software stack for each hardware, then it's going to be many different software stacks, right? So that's why Intel created this One API initiative, and we've been making very good progress on the One API side. So One API is this cross-industry, open, standard-based, unified programming model, and so we are looking for a common developer experience across all the accelerator architectures. And the initiative is an open initiative, right? It's not an Intel thing; it's an open initiative. So we actually encourage everybody to participate, in the specification, defining the specs, and we also encourage people to create their own implementations for these for the spec as well. So that's just one example here, because the software really is going to be the key, even though majority of our business is still hardware business.
That's fantastic. So I love your point there about that open ecosystem and supporting that. I think it's one of the biggest catalysts of innovation we've got at the moment. I think it's so important. And also, the AI software portfolio you were describing there, I'm doing a lot of that hands-on at the moment with certain projects as well. So I literally am experiencing that. And it's kind of open, isn't it? Unified, secure, those kind of three pillars coming together, and your drive to be developer first. I really love and respect that. And particularly the applications as it's been put forward, I think is really exciting to see. And you were talking there about some of the software announcements. Brilliant. I love if we could explore a few more of those as well, just to bring that to life for everyone. So maybe around, for example, Project Apollo, great example of partnership there as well, but also the reference kits that are coming out and some of the industry frameworks as well.
Yeah. So let me just do one thing at a time here. Let's say we are in the Intel Vision event in May. Our CEO actually announced a collaboration project between Intel and Accenture, and the goal over there is to deliver a set of new open source reference kits. And the way to do these reference kits was you actually try to make it easy for people to, because if you are a user, all you care about is you have your data, you want to get the insight, right? So how do you go from data to insight quickly? And you don't really care about how you want to do this thing here. All you care about the end result, right? So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to provide these reference kits so it's easy for you to go from your data to insight here. And this is going to be very exciting. We'll have the goal is to have more than 30 reference kits, and they will be targeting different use cases. It will be targeting different industries, and so that's an interesting goal there. Actually, by the way, there's a one API for AI summit next week on July 12th. And over there, so we are going to be launching some of these toolkits, and I'll be giving a kickoff keynote over there, and I have a guest speaker from Accenture to make an announcement together with me. So that will be exciting. We are making progress here.
Fantastic, love that.
So that's the essential side. So you also ask about the framework side. As we discussed last time, within AI, it's the entire ecosystem, right? And the partnership entire ecosystem. That's actually Intel's play. We want to accelerate. Actually, my talk at London was accelerate open AI software ecosystem for AI everywhere. And I truly believe that it's going to be the future for all of us here. Like, we want to have an open ecosystem, and that means we work with a lot of partners, and we want partners, and many of these the software packages in the open ecosystem, they are very, very popular. For example, TensorFlow, right, is very popular, and so we made a huge progress recently. So in May probably was a lucky month for us. So in May, Google released their latest version of TensorFlow 2.9, and with the TensorFlow 2.9, they have the Intel optimizations default in that TensorFlow release, right? So that means if you're using TensorFlow, you don't even know the Intel optimizations are actually already happening underneath it, and you don't do any extra work. And that's what we're trying to do to reach millions of developers and billions of users, right? Because we want to be integrating all the goodness of Intel software and the goodness of Intel hardware features in these very popular frameworks, so people can just use it automatically. So that was very exciting, and it took us probably 5-6 years to get there, because it was a strong requirement, right, in order to become a default and everything there. Yeah.
That's incredible. I love that. And it's like all the performance gains, isn't it? I think ×3, I think I was reading about there. And
So we had a press release, right? It was a 3x performance gain, but actually in many cases it's even more than 3x gain. So it is pretty meaningful. Yeah.
I love those reference kits you were talking about there, and what's coming next as well, as you were saying, being more and more specific, like life sciences and chatbot, conversational AI, and health service, for example, as well. So I love the direction that's going. I think it's a great trajectory.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And talking about partnership again, so a key theme, I think, already in our conversation today, that's kind of power of the ecosystem. One of the ones from the London AI Summit, I love what we were talking about Hugging Face. I think it's a really, really interesting partnership. There's so many more organizations are using it. I think 5,000 plus, I think, at the moment, isn't it? Could you share a bit more about what that's all about and what that partnership's going to enable?
Yeah, so we've been working with Hugging Face for a while. As you know, Hugging Face is probably arguably the leader in the space of natural language processing. They provide all kinds of transformer-based models, and it is very, very popular. I have a friend who actually their son is a first-year student at Stanford. So he came over during the July 4th weekend, and we were just talking. He just took a class in natural language processing. I said, what do you do with on NLP? He said, I download the model from Hugging Face, right? So it is, you just run into these things, right? And it is very popular. And so what our goal is, make sure all the models people are developing on for NLP, they're running well on Intel platforms. And so the opposition, we're talking about the tools we've been building, and we want to make sure they become part of the Hugging Face ecosystem. So in London, we just made an announcement. We actually had started another collaboration specifically in developing a library, a open source library, and that library is called Optimum Intel library, and that has all the Intel optimized tools inside, and these tools are very effective in terms of getting much better performance here. And the one tools I mentioned last time with you already is called Intel Neural Compressor, and that tool will allow you to leverage the low precision capability from the machines, and that improve performance much. We're getting things done much more quickly. So these are things we have seen a lot of people benefiting from already. I've been talking to the CSPs. They actually be integrating the INC, what we call INC, Intel Neural Compressor INC optimized software in their production environment, right? And you probably you don't even realize when you uses your piece of software here, there's AI behind it, and then the AI model is actually optimized by our tools. So that's very exciting. We're working with the leaders in very different areas, right? We mentioned Essential is clearly the leader in their business, and Google is a clear leader in their business, and same thing. Hugging Face is a clear leader in what they do here.
Absolutely. I love that power of partnership. You're seeing all those different benefits there across performance and efficiency and experience, and that power of integration as well. I think particularly the Hugging Face example, open source integration and that developer experience being more integrated as well. I think that's going to be amazing for that transformer community. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I kind of mentioned a few of these naturally, actually, in terms of some of the benefits these are seeing. But if we take all those different announcements kind of in the round, if we put them together, how would you describe, what Intel is trying to accomplish with these new releases? For example, around simplicity, but also that democratization we've spoken about before about AI, which I know again means so much for both of us.
Yeah. So I think when I think about these use cases, and when you sit back to say what is the big picture here, right? And the big picture really is about we can get to AI everywhere, and it is. We have seen a lot of use cases, and I can easily give you tons of use cases and what's happening today, right? Which is pretty real. So Intel as a company, we are participating in this evolution, or maybe you call it revolution here. When you look back years later, this is a exciting time. AI really is taking off, is making big changes here. And from our perspective, we want to go for scale, right? Because if you have AI everywhere, Intel can help scale AI to get to AI everywhere. So Intel is pretty unique in the sense we have scale, and we already have scale. Today, I mean, Intel silicon is ubiquitous, right? Everywhere you go, you will see Intel silicon, and so we are pretty good. Naturally, our DNA is a scale company, right? So we can do. It's a very good fit in terms of what we can do for AI everywhere here.
Fantastic. And I think you're absolutely right. It's that actualization, isn't it, of that vision so that anyone can apply. They should be able to apply and use AI wherever they are. So I love the trajectory again. That word comes up again, but it really is that path to actualization around this in so many different sectors for all types of roles. So I absolutely love that. And you mentioned that word unique there as well in terms of the Intel position and voice around this. With everything that's going on, how would you describe kind of the Intel's unique position in this world of AI at the moment? You've already hinted at it really, I think, in terms of that power of scale end to end. I'd love to kind of hear that from your take.
Yeah, so I think scale and scale everywhere, ubiquitous. That's what I'll talk about already. And then as a result, we can really solve the AI problems in a very powerful way, and simply because the AI problems tend to be end-to-end problems, right? Because if you think about the I mentioned earlier, you go from a data, you have data, you want to go to insight, and how do you get the AI solution from it? And that's a end-to-end process, and that goes through multiple phases. And if I just talked to one of the data scientists in my team. I want to look at how they actually solve real problems, right? I mean, so you have many pieces here, and all these pieces are running well on Intel platforms. So you don't have to go outside to do anything else, because you just stay there, and then you can solve your problems that way. So that's why I'm very bullish on what we can do with all these, the hardware we're building here and the software we're building here, because software, as I mentioned, is going to be key, because eventually, it's the gap between your ultimate goal of developing solutions and the technologies we have today. Right? The technologies we have today, we have the data, we have the compute capabilities in terms of the hardware Intel is developing, other companies are developing, right? And then you have the algorithms, right? You have the algorithm, transformer, you mentioned already, transformer, and all these new neural networks people are developing. And we have all these different pieces. And then the key thing is, how do we go from there to solutions? And really, Intel is pretty unique. We can do great stuff over here.
Absolutely. I think you described that so well. It is that end to end, isn't it? So language, model optimizations, open source. I love the commitment to this, but then through to these full AI solutions, but powered with partnership around it as well, which again, I think is so interesting. The ones you brought to life already on that. So absolutely the way forward. I think I love that. And again, I love talking in pillars too. So it's kind of that openness, security, productivity, and obviously performance as well. It underpins all of this. So that's fantastic to see. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And it makes me think as well, obviously, again, I do quite a lot of work with my nonprofit around, ethical AI development, for example, plus getting more people from a diversity of experience into the sector as well. I wonder if we could explore that a little bit as well, about where Intel is, and perhaps partnerships around this as well, to help reduce bias issues in AI, but also to address things around, for example, supply and demand, talent gaps too, and getting more people from that diversity of experience into the sector as well. So again, very much my non-profit area there, but I'd love to kind of hear your take on what your thoughts are and what we could do next.
Okay, so you have multiple questions inside. Let me do one at a time here. Yeah, so ethical AI and the bias, that's really important to us. As you saw in my London experience, my weather forecast is actually pretty biased, because I only took my personal experience of a few days in London, and I made such a conclusion out of it, right? And about the London weather, and so we are actually doing something about it, and within my team, we are developing tools. We're in the software business. We're developing tools to detect whether a particular model has potential for bias or not, and we're checking things and over there. And we also work with partners. Again, it's anytime we work on these things, we want to collaborate with other companies here. So there's a startup my team has been working with, and they try to understand something, explainability. Right? Part of the sort of the shortcoming of deep learning is it's hard to explain, which is different from the traditional AI, because quite often why the model does X, Y, Z, because exactly, because the model was designed to do this. But the deep learning is a self-trained thing, right? It's harder to explain why deep learning model thinks that way, and so we are developing tool to work with others to on the explainability side. So there's a variety of companies we're working with, and this is a interesting area for us.
Fantastic to see that. I think it's so important. And that explainability point in so many areas, I think when it comes to social impact, it's that moving beyond transparency around whatever issue, whether it's AI or ESG areas, for example, but that commitment and accountability that goes beyond as well. So fantastic to see. And again, it's that power of partnership to make a difference, isn't it? That's wonderful.
Yeah.
If I may go back to my second question, I brought them together just because my nonprofit kind of focuses on both, basically. They can interrelate. But what can we do more to kind of change the narrative? That's my kind of expression for this, about what a career in tech actually looks like. And I talk about STEAM learning a lot, and encouraging people that all kind of skill sets within a team make a difference. You need creativity, you need emotional intelligence, and technical skills as well. It's that creative confidence to imagine what the future can look like, and those tech skills to help build them as well. So from your perspective, what do you think we can do to help attract more people into the industry from that real diversity of experience, including neurodiversity as well, which I think sometimes isn't talked about as much? But I'd love to hear kind of anything you're involved in that, because I know, again, a shared interest, and just your perspective. I'd love to hear that.
Oh yeah, so talents are going to be key for our success, right? Whatever we do, at the end of the day, it's just not me. It's actually my team who actually get the work done here, right? So talents are important, and so when I came from London, my flight was delayed, and but it was lucky actually. I arrived here early enough to catch the NBA basketball final. And so I'm rooting for my local team here, which is Golden State Warriors over there, and it was interesting to see how they play, because they have superstars obviously, but they play a team sport, and it's a team sport that actually win these games here, right? And so we really need to have diverse skills, and people with diverse skills. That's how we're going to make it happen here. And as from my team perspective, we are doing we have a well-oiled machine, and we're building a winning. We have a winning team here, and because of that, a lot of people have been with us for many years, and we also have new people. We have been growing very significantly. Actually, in the past quarter, we grow quite a bit, and so there's a lot of people who want to join us, and I think the more successful we become as a team, the more people who want to join us. And I think as the industry as well, with the more people see the impact of AI, and the more people want to join the effort to make AI happen to the next level, which is even more exciting. Talking about excitement of AI applications today, but tomorrow will be even more. So it is going to be a interesting journey. And I had a team meeting actually early. It was yesterday. They were just talking about, we're so lucky to be part of the journey. It's more than one company, really. It's about the industry. It's about, in some sense, about humanity, where you're moving from one state of intelligence to another state of intelligence, assisted by all these machines, right? Because the AI is going to help us all do better here.
Absolutely, it's that enablement, isn't it? And that power of the collective you were saying, plus the leadership you were showing there as well, I think is amazing. I totally agree. It's such an exciting time. And I know certainly, when I do things with schools, for example, when you can show the application of technology for such a range of kind of shared value benefits, yes, you can show like amazing innovation in business, but also where you can show purpose-driven innovation for society, actually how one can inform and enable the other, the interest to say, hey, I want to be part of that. I'm really curious now. I think I'm going to play it in that way. It's such a game changer. It really is that visibility, seeing someone who kind of looks like you do in a particular role, for example, as well. The more we can show the applications of technology and all the different skills and all walks of life it can come from to make a difference, I think is incredibly powerful. And I couldn't agree more. It's exciting times in tech, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, it really is. It opens up a lot of opportunities for everyone. And I was so happy I mentioned my friend's son already. My son is also first year student. So I saw their conversation. It was so exciting, lively conversation. It was like, hey, that's the future, right? We're going to make something big happen, as a society here.
Fantastic. And talking about kind of things on the horizon as well, I don't know if you're able to do this, but are you able to give any kind of sneak peeks of further partnerships on the horizon, or kind of what your ultimate one would be? I don't know if you're allowed to do that, but any sneak peek, we're always welcome for that.
Yeah. So let me share a little bit here, right? Because I before this meeting, I was talking to one of the execs who leads the overall business for Intel here. So I was talking about my goal is, we want to go from research all the way to impact in the real world, right? As the entire pipeline, can we get this entire pipeline going here in a smooth fashion, right? So we actually, Intel has a lot of activities along the way. We have a big program called the Disruptors Program as well. So that gives you a little bit sneak peek of what kind of people we are interacting with. And over in that program, we tend to have the startups, people looking at cutting edge technologies, and that's something I care about a lot. And I want to see how we can collaborate with these folks to move the thing along, over there. So some of these companies we mentioned, they are already part of the disruptor program. Like Hugging Face is part of our disruptor program, and another company called Katana Graph is also part of the disruptor program, and another startup, and they are focusing on graph computing. And so you can imagine a lot of the real problems end up, they can be mapped into graph, right? If you think about an airline, they try to route flights, that's a graph. If you think about a social network, it can be structured as a graph. And if you think about drug discovery, they can be, you can look at it as a graph also. So graph as a new technology is going to be evolving as well, and with the infusion of neural networks into the traditional graph analytics, it's becoming more and more powerful. So there are many different kinds of things you can do, and there's a lot of players in the looking at the cutting edge stuff. So we are all pretty open to work with other people in our shared journey here.
I love that. And again, that dynamism coming to the fore there in terms of those different types of applications. It's great to see, as an example, the Hugging Face partnership there, that it's come through that program and that collaboration, that iterative development. I think that's brilliant to see. And it's going to be so inspiring, for others to join that program too, and kind of move beyond startup to scale up in many respects around bleeding edge innovations. That's superb. Yeah. I have to ask a final question, and it has to be tech for good, doesn't it? I think there's no other way.
I can. My neural network is telling me Sally will ask that question, so I have to predict that already.
You got me there, absolutely. So if we end on that note, because I think it's just, again, I'm so joyful about how this is resonating with so many people at the moment, and how we really are moving beyond, talking about good applications of tech to genuine scaling up of applications right across the world. And again, with this collaboration aspect really helping to fuel that. But I'd love to kind of share any final examples that you're most excited about and proud of, even at the moment, around tech for good and AI that we could share with other people, and again, help inspire them to get involved and create their own projects, for example, or even join that program.
Yeah, so I just give you one example here. We have many different examples here. I just give you one to be more concrete here. So part of the one of these areas I'm very interested in is improving people's lives, right? So we're working with Stanford, and Stanford is a research project. They're working with the Stanford Medical School, cardiac surgeons, and today when somebody goes in for a surgery, heart surgery, usually the surgeon will look at your charts, look at your images, and make some determination of what to do, what kind of plan to do. Right? So it's more of a pure human experience based. So they try to change it to be somewhere more scientific. So they actually use mathematical modeling for your heart, for your artery, to see if you do surgery like this, what will happen. Right? And so it's becoming more data driven. It's a digital, going to digital part of it. Now that simulation usually takes a lot of time. It takes weeks to do this. So it's not very practical at this moment, but it's in the right direction. And so we're working with them to see whether we can apply AI to solve that problem here, because AI can shorten the time of the simulation and make it more practical for surgeons to make these decisions here. So we're working on these things, and I think it's very promising. It's not done yet, but it's just in progress. And one of the things we have done is when you try to shorten the time, you make the model simpler, and then all of a sudden the model may not be as accurate. So can we improve the accuracy back from there? So we've been looking at different algorithms, and our new algorithms can improve accuracy by more than 10%, which is pretty meaningful, right? If you go from X to Y by 10%, it's very meaningful. So that's a direction it's a project we're actively working on. It's going to be good for everyone at some point.
Well, absolutely. I mean, health and healthcare, and the data around that is our most sensitive. Everyone can understand and relate to anything around healthcare, and anything that we can do to, accelerate that curve around diagnosis and other forms of innovation. And I'm really fascinated with personalized precision medicine as well. So I think the work around that is super interesting too. So it's anything we can all relate to that, and we all can see, whether it's ourselves or our family members or our friends, the benefits that can bring. I think it's a wonderful example. And again, that complementary strengths of technology and people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I know I always want to speak to you for longer, but I know where we need to kind of bring our discussion to a close today. And for me, it's been so powerful in terms of the power of collaboration we've talked about there, the technology innovation around AI, this kind of transformation as well, beyond hardware to software, the integration alongside that, really supporting the developer community, so many different aspects. But it's this move, isn't it, from data volume, variety, veracity, etc., to true data value and those insights, and kind of the rise of active intelligence that you're supporting here as well, really end to end. It's been amazing speaking to you as always, and thank you as well for all you do around all things tech for good with AI too. I really value that.
Okay, Sally, very nice talking to you. I always enjoy our conversations here, and we can get to AI everywhere. I mean, we just all do our own part, and on the software side, we can do the open ecosystem, and I think we will get there.
Absolutely. Brilliant speaking to you. And thank you so much for your time. And thank you all as well for watching and listening to another episode of Tomorrow's Tech Today. And we will be sharing all of the examples we've talked about today so you can take a further look too. And I really hope that builds your curiosity and confidence in the future enabled by AI everywhere. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Thank you, Sally.
My pleasure. Thanks for listening to this episode of Tomorrow's Tech Today. If you enjoy what we're doing, please subscribe to us and leave a review. It really means a lot. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram and see more behind the scenes video footage on YouTube. Thanks for listening.